business partner, Christine Westfall, as well. Quick show of hands, how many people would like to live downtown? How many people can afford it right now? Okay, awesome. Just for those of you who are like there are some, but it was few. So, I'll kind of give you a personal story to start out. Success is kind of a funny thing. Early in my career, I was really out to prove myself and to show what I could do. Literally, the stats there are real from past clients. Getting someone from 1 million users to 10 million users a month just from organic SEO feels like a really big achievement. Getting someone from 200 leads to 4,500 leads a week and having their cost per lead feels like a really big achievement. But like doing that amazing thing and like, oh, I'm good, I'm perfect, I know my trade. But then like watching what happens afterwards, and be like, oh, they're just pocketing $2 million extra, or that company, that organization maybe shouldn't be relevant still. Maybe they're out of date and I accidentally saved them. When you see what actually happens at the end of that, what you achieve something great, you feel good about it, but then it's like, oh, well, I didn't count on that happening. And so, I think Durham is running into that a little bit too. And so when that started to happen to me, I started to look and was like, well, where's the meaning? What am I doing with my time and myself in a way that is actually making things better and making a real difference rather than just making someone else money? And I changed my company so that we only worked on positive impact projects in education and nonprofits, and then I also started doing more community outreach in Durham. Got involved in the homeless community and working with a nonprofit there, Housing for New Hope, which is awesome. And started learning more about affordable housing, and that really the key to keeping the homelessness problem at bay is keeping homes affordable. And those two things are really, really connected. And I started looking around town and searching. It's like, who's got a solution? Who's working on this? Where can we find a solution? I met with Steve Schultz, and he's got a 5-year plan for affordable housing in Durham. You probably don't know this, but private development is not part of this plan. At all. There's no private developers stepping up to say, I want to play a role in this. And so I started looking around to figure out, well, who elsewhere is, and how can we create a market solution? And I met Christine.
And so I come from the opposite end of the spectrum. I've had a 15-year career in affordable housing development in the nonprofit sector, doing projects that are supported by government and use public subsidy. And it has been rewarding, but it has also been frustrating because government projects have a lot of red tape attached to them, and that really limits what you can do. So I became independent a few years ago, and I'm really excited now about looking for solutions to affordable housing in the private sector and with the entrepreneurial sector. So very excited to be with you today.
So many of you may or may not have seen a fairly recent article in The Atlantic. It was really fun. There was an article 1 week earlier that everyone talked about and shared that was like, yay, Durham's so great, everybody loves Durham, the tech sector is booming. And then like a week later, they published this article, which was like, gentrification's running rampant, no one can afford to live downtown. And it really is one of those things where there's displacement and there's not a point where it's going to stop. So the people and the culture and the economic diversity and the cultural diversity that we all value so much in downtown and in the near urban areas of downtown is completely getting pushed out at a rate that's crazy. So before we get into the concept, Christine's going to tell you a little bit and just kind of educate you a little bit on what that actually looks like and what that actually means.
So these slides have a lot of information, and we have limited times. And if anybody wants more information about this, I'm going to stick around after Helpfest, so come and talk to me. But the nutshell version of this is that the downtown Durham area was traditionally affordable for many, many years. And when I moved here in 1998, I lived on Birch Avenue, and my neighbors included Latino immigrants, Haitian immigrants, low-income housing, Duke professors, grad students, journalists, social workers. So it was a really interesting, fun mix of people, and it was a really fun neighborhood. It was really diverse, and a lot of Durham's neighborhoods were like this. So that's been a part of our Durham culture, but in the last 5 years, prices have risen dramatically in Durham, both in rentals and home ownership prices. And if you'll look at the slide, you'll see that rents have increased an average of 100% in the last 5 years, and home prices have increased 2 to 4% based on which neighborhood it's located in. You can take it to the next slide. So who can afford these new prices? The rents and the price ranges we're talking about are affordable to households at 100% of the area median income and up. And what that means is if you could make a list of all the incomes in Durham, 100% median would be right in the dead center, which is great, but there's a lot of people who earn less than that, and a lot of Durham's traditional residents earn less than that. I'm going to take it to the next slide. So with Affordable Durham LLC, what our hope to do is to provide housing to that sector of people that are getting squeezed out of the market, people who earn less than that 100% area median income. And we want to provide what we call workforce housing for them. What is workforce housing? It is houses that serve people who are full-time working people, earn between 60 and 100% area median income, and are typically people like city workers, medical technicians, teachers, social workers, police officers, that group that provides core services that our community really needs to operate. Now, the City of Durham is, City Council is very much aware and concerned about these problems as well, and in 2013, they passed a resolution with a written goal that all new developments near transit areas would have 15% affordable units. Up to this point, all the private sector developers they've talked to have said that they cannot afford to produce 15% affordable units. The one exception is Wood Partners, which has agreed after much duress to produce 5% affordable units in a very large community that's going to go around Farrington Road.
So that brings us back to this article. At first glance, when you look at these quotes, you think, oh my God, that's awful, right? But as an entrepreneur, and someone saying, hey, if we can create a scalable financial model that works to solve this problem, private industry can come in and help. Specifically, our own community can come in and help and do something. If only we had a model. And when you think about the need for the model, when you think about what makes for a good business, a massive amount of demand for a dwindling supply. Anybody know anything about economics and what we look for in supply and demand? And as far as market timing, doesn't seem to be a point where this is going to stop. As far as a general market opportunity and something that we can come in, meet the need for with a creative solution and make some money and do some good, it doesn't get any better than this. And so when Christina and I met, and she had these amazing models for mixed income communities that had worked in, specifically in Chapel Hill, and we're working, ideas like this were working elsewhere in the country, and no one in Durham was doing it. It was like, we've got to do this. We've got to get on this, and so we did. What's it going to look like? Well, it's not going to look like your traditional gulag. It's going to be a modern, awesome building. It's not affordable housing per se. It's mixed income. It's to be a place to add to the cultural, all of the things that we love about Durham, we want to put in these communities. There's going to be people from different backgrounds, people with different income levels, all living together, walkable to Durham, walkable to town. The first one's going to be walkable to downtown Durham. We may do others in other areas, such as potentially Lakewood or Rockwood, other places where there's room as Durham grows to increase density. And here's what it's going to look like. The project we're looking to deploy, and if you want to learn more about this particular project, come talk to us afterwards, get on our email newsletter. But we're looking right now for investors and for people who want to potentially come in and say, yes, I want one of these units. 50 total condos, 30% of them are going to be affordable to kind of workforce housing, which is double Durham's goal for new developments. Double Durham's goal for new developments with zero subsidy. This is all completely self-funded through just kind of, basic equity, and it can support itself without subsidy. Now, in the future, if we can get some subsidy, if we can work with the city donates land, we can service an even lower income level with this. But for right now, we just want to prove the basic model, show that it can be done, and show that the community will rally around this concept. And if you can see those numbers and kind of put yourself into one of those, if you're one of those people, just kind of looking at this board, and you're one of the people who would like to live downtown, can you afford one of these? Raise your hand if you can. That's almost as many hands as I saw who wanted to live downtown. That's the idea, right? That's why we're here. That's why I wanted to bring this to you guys, because I think this is something we can really do. How are we making it affordable? We're not being greedy, for starters. We're giving basic, solid returns, 8 to 10% to investors. We're taking a smaller developer fee. Like, are we going to make a little money? Well, we have to. What are we going to do with the money we make? Well, as much as possible, we're going to turn it into the next project and create our own equity. But by pre-selling as many units as we can, we should be able to create a really safe investment for investors. And by getting 50% equity on the project, we should be able to eliminate the need for a guarantor as well. So it's just tiny little optimizations by doing each little thing that we can to draw down the need for outsized profit. We can create a basic model that is inherently affordable. So what are we looking for? If you're interested in buying one of these units, let us know. We need buyers. We want to start pre-selling as soon as we get all the paperwork in place, which we're working on now. If you're interested in investing, come to us and let us know. 8 to 10% return. We don't take your money until we've pre-sold 50 to 60% of the units, which is basically all we're financing. So as far as from equity. So kind of the money you're giving will already be contracted with a potential buyer once the project's finished. The other things we can do, if you've got a company here and you're interested in corporate apartments for traveling people who come in, that could be a really good use for one of these units. And then outside of that, last week we talked about getting involved politically. As a community, we need to make sure Steve Schultz and the other members of City Council know we want affordable housing. We're here to support affordable housing. We want to be part of the solution for affordable housing. So if you can't invest and you can't buy, do write a letter. Write a letter to your city council folks and let them know that if affordable housing is important to you, you recognize the responsibility we all have with the success that we're bringing to Durham, but also our responsibility for helping with the gentrification. And then you can go to affordabledurham.com, subscribe to our basic email newsletter. As we get further along, we're going to be giving out updates. And then, of course, snap, tweet, pin, Insta, share, like us. Whatever your flavor. Hashtag AffordableDurham, and then affordabledurham.com. Just tell folks this is happening. We could use as much outreach as you've got. And I think that's our time. Any questions, thoughts, or feedback for us? This is Helpfest after all.
So, I love this concept. I was wondering, like, are you guys thinking about, like, how to structure just the floors so that way an actual genuine mix is being created? So like distribution of the different rooms available, not having like sort of like suites on only the top floor, like
Third floor versus second floor.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's fairly common in, my background is working with inclusionary housing, inclusionary zoning programs. And one of the underlying tenets of that is that the affordable units are the same design as the market rate, and they're interspersed throughout the building or the neighborhood. So it's a great point. Yes.
So it's a really cool model. Also, partly because you're proving that it's possible to do this, right? So next time a developer comes to City Hall,
Yes,
you
exactly.
have to say, okay, no, actually we have the numbers. But I'm sure y'all are aware of similar developments that have happened even in Durham in the past. The Southside development being an example, where I think something over 90% of the affordable units went to young white families who probably will be high the lower income class eventually because they're professionals who are moving up in the income stream. That seems to be the case for these kinds of homeownership programs overall because of the difficulty in credit. So I'm wondering if y'all looked into either committing some of them as affordable rentals through partnering with a nonprofit that would buy them, or working on different creative mortgage solutions to actually ensure that it's not just, you know, so I would fall into that income category, but I don't expect to in like 5 years, for example. And that's very different from other people.
Yeah, so right now, because this is our first one, we just need to prove the model. We're doing them all for sale. The goal is to do as much rentals as we can. And in fact, the phase 2 of this project that we have here is a rental phase 2 with street level retail. And so we understand the need to get into rental, we want to get into rental. The nice thing about this is that we're able to create the returns and then have the equity to do the next project very, very quickly, which is why we're starting with for sale. We also are really interested in growing the model with city-owned property across to help us serve, make it easier for us to serve a rental market with even lower rents. And then we're also looking at other areas of the city that are growing for potentiality to put a little drop-a model like this in different places. Our hope is to do 10, 15 of these all over the city once we get the first one up and running and out the door.
Yes, in the back.
One more question.
Okay.
You may have already covered this, but what's to prevent a low-level real estate speculator, an individual, from buying one of the affordable units and then turning around and flipping it for market value?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it actually can tie in a little with your question as well. The model that I worked with in Chapel Hill, although I was living here, was the community land trust model, which creates permanently affordable housing by limiting the price at which the unit can be resold. And so the owner takes some of the appreciation, but it has to be sold at a level that's affordable to the same income level they were in. And we're going to look into implementing that type of model on some level, whether it's deed restrictions or land trusts. And that also, by the way, addresses the issue of upward mobility, because inherently, if someone, no matter what their race or socioeconomic condition, if they buy an affordable unit and they're upwardly mobile, they're incented to go ahead and go to the private market and maximize their return. And they move out and they make that available to someone then who needs it. And these units continue to serve generation after generation. So I could wax romantic about that, but I'll stop. But I'm going to stick around. Adam has to leave, but I'll be here after Helpfest for any other questions like that.
Thank you very much, guys.